Hello, I'm Toycat and welcome back to the third channel Walk and Talk video. That is the One World Trade Center, which is at time of recording the 7th tallest building in the world. It's the tallest building in the world outside of Asia, or the Western Hemisphere is the icon they like to use. But it's a very tall building and it's here in downtown New York. But we're doing our walk today for a bunch of actually surprisingly pretty small buildings. Maybe they just look small by comparison. Isn't that the interesting thing about comparing? You can often ruin something just by comparing it to something much bigger. And today I wanted to talk about that, probably in some part, but I want to talk a little bit about free will. You know what? Not free of the wills, because apparently I say free and free the same way, but I wanted to talk about free will. And one of the, I guess, it's something you have to struggle with. I think almost all of our struggles we have as a people, actually, you know what, let's go this way after all. I think one of the struggles you kind of have to have with any debate about anything is, do people really make decisions for themselves entirely, or do they not? Are their decisions predetermined? The way people often posit this is like, is the universe determinism versus free will? Is every action that will ever happen predefined? Which to some extent you can argue it is, because we're all made up of, our body is made of just a trillion cells, and each of those cells are just made up of a ton of individual atoms, and each of those atoms, it goes all the way down, but at a certain level it starts behaving logically. There is a certain predictability. If you can know the state of every atom in the universe, and you can know the current direction that it's heading in, you can know everything that would happen from now to the end of time. In reality, what that means, again, it's kind of an unproven point. It's like very likely to be true, but in reality, what that actually means is, nothing, because there's never going to be enough computing power in the universe to work out the universe itself, which is, maybe a more depressing thought when you start to think about it. But unless we breach the laws of physics, in which case, if you can do that, then how can a machine really work at all? How can you, to get a computer that could understand how the universe works, you would have to break the universe in such a way that the computer would not understand it. Kind of like the funny thing that, like, our brains are so big. Our brains are like just big enough to understand many things. Our brains are big enough to understand that they don't understand themselves, right? Can you explain most of what's going down at any point in time inside of your own head? I feel like if you can, you're a very lucky person. And you're also mistaken. But I wanted to talk about free will, because I think about all the time some of the problems we all pose by not thinking about it, I guess. Again, I really do think that it's a core part of every big discussion that we forget about because it's convenient to forget about, but also that, can't be beyond. So, for instance, by the way, look at this walking across I'm doing right here. This is very, very good and above board. I love traffic. I love cars in big cities. America is such a nice city to walk around. What's all that steam coming from the ground? I was gonna not address it because, that's New York being wacky. But you know what? It's a confusing city. I'm here still for the next month and a half, by the way. I'm enjoying it. I'm starting to already get some sadness for leaving, but also get some, excitement for whatever I come to in America next. This is very terrifying too. Look at that. There's just gap right here. You could drop a phone and it's just gone. I could drop my keys down there. They're not coming back anytime soon. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm currently feeling this weird mix of, I guess, a little bit of sadness of leaving, excitement for what's coming after. I've got a house purchase that's in the final stages. I'm pretty sure, at least. It's very confusing. Buying a house in the UK is just calling up a bunch of people who insist they're doing their job, except they don't do their job till you call them up, and then it's a fun thing. I should talk about that another time. But then I'm also excited, what? If I do come back to America for another 3-month stint, I'm thinking it'd be nice to be in Denver during not Denver, I guess actually Denver, Colorado, one of the big cities, during the winter, right? Be a nice snowy city, access to some skiing or whatever. I don't know, maybe I'm too filled with optimism. Maybe I should be filled with the pessimism that really comes with trying to move house, and the pessimism that should come with, I don't know, having to redesign my entire workspace from scratch. But I'm optimistic about it. Isn't that funny? Oh, look, by the way, here, there's what's it called? Traffic marshals? This is what they used to do before, traffic lights. Some would even argue it's more effective than traffic lights. I would argue that too. It looks insane, but most things look insane. Like the concept that you can understand everything in the universe. Again, it's kind of an ununderstandable point, but it gets to the idea that like everything that happens is semi-determined, right? I mean, if you're a history fan, you know, there's that phrase, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. The fact that what's something that hasn't happened yet that I can be reasonably certain of? I can be fairly certain that by the end of this video, you know, 76% of you aren't subscribed and probably should be, or whatever the fun maths is at this point in time. Why do people always say it that way, actually? Why can't we say, you know, YouTube statistics say that 76% of you aren't subscribed, and, you know, I'd like to increase that number. Unsubscribe right now. Why don't you, you know, if you're not committed to this relationship, I'd like you to leave. I think, you know, I'd rather have 10,000 people who want to be here than 15,000 people who are on the edge. So leave. You gotta go right now. There's no choice. You think this is a choice? It's not. You're going now. But yeah, anyway, so you're going for a walk. It's a nice walk. And this walk that I'm on right now, if you knew enough about me, you could probably determine where I was going already. You know, make your guesses. See if you're right by the end of the video. You can make a fair guess about what I'm going to do when I come across a horde of people. You can make a reasonably intuitive assumption that I'm going to look both ways before I cross the road, but I'm going to ignore the hand sign, even though that's technically jaywalking. Voted most fun store in New York, the Balloon Saloon. That's cute. But you know, you can probably make good guesses about these things. But if I have free will, then how is that possible? If I can do anything by the end of this video, how can some of you guess where I'm going and guess correctly? By the way, I don't know where I'm going, so if you can guess, you know more about me than I know about me in my present moment. And isn't that crazy? There's some number of you have guessed where I'm going better than I know. Doesn't that tell us something about free will? If I really can decide myself, how can many of you have a better idea of what I'm going to decide than what I would decide? Therefore, free will is a scam, and we're all in a deterministic universe. Except not really, right? That's kind of a lie. Even the most determinable things, like the sun rising tomorrow, or the most determinable things, such as, you know, YouTubers mentioning that some percent of you aren't subscribed and probably should be. You know, these super determinable facts do go the opposite way sometimes. I mean, oh look, there's a Western Union little museum style thing. I'm sure it's just a, you know, that's cute. I like that. But isn't that crazy that even sometimes it still happens? I know you might not have seen it in a while, but even sometimes you'll see that YouTubers will not reference that some percent of you aren't subscribed and that you probably should do so. It does still sometimes happen. Even the sun rising tomorrow, it's almost guaranteed. Every now and then the sun doesn't rise. If you're in the Arctic Circle, it doesn't happen, right? And so on and so forth. Every like guaranteed known rule has exceptions. And obviously, if you're really big on, look at this pigeon. Obviously, if you're really big on, you know, talking about this, you might say, well, actually, it's all about probabilities. There is a 1 in 3 probability that we turn left and go down this street, but there's also a 1 in 3 probability we go over here. We could also turn left and right. That's the other third. I haven't turned left or right yet, and I don't intend to start now. Or am I? You know, this me turning right here is only because I had that mention earlier. But all of this craziness and insanity and lack of logic. Sorry, I'm talking about New York again. I think that this can all be explained away, right, as like logical consequences of your brain doing X, Y, Z. This is you following the conversation topic as best you can. And so if I was thinking about it, I could have predicted that. And even if I couldn't predict that, even if no one can predict that, it's still guaranteed. It's just we don't know that it's guaranteed. But the places that this really gets interesting for people, in my opinion, the place where this becomes something worth knowing about is when you start to consider, like, what happened, what, you know, if, do you have free will over how you know, like how much of someone's life is decided by their circumstances versus by their actions and their decisions. This is the big question. I would argue it's a philosophical question that's at the heart of like every single big political decision. Why is there a giant rat on the back of this pickup truck? Shame on Alba Services. Workers employed by Alba Services are paid below workers with union representation with no medical or retirement benefits. And it's a giant rat. That's cute. I like that. I don't know what Alba Services are, but they sure are a giant rat, am I right? But like, you know, okay, wait, that exact issue, that's a political issue, right? I'm assuming giant rat, unions, healthcare, those are all political words, right? So even that political issue I just passed right there, very confusing that it's one guy of a giant rat. But even that, you can argue is kind of down to the same thing. I mean, employees at Alba Services Limited, was it limited? It's not limited, we're not in the UK. Employees at that company, Alba Services, that do some great thing, if they are 100% in control of their own destinies, if they can decide truly 100% for themselves, then why does it matter, like, you know, what you offer them, as long as you're giving them the right to leave at all times, which is guaranteed by law. You know, if you offer someone 16 cents an hour and you're gonna kick them in the nuts once that hour, most people will say no. If someone says yes, then it's because they value being kicked in the nuts less than they value 16 cents, no? And so if you were truly in control of your own destiny, you wouldn't need any, labor regulations. You wouldn't need any laws about unions and healthcare, because you know if there's a job not offering you healthcare and you want healthcare because you know you're a rational human being that at some point in your life is statistically going to need it and it's very expensive, then obviously you'd think about that. But I guess this is not more really a free will question. I guess it's kind of a rational actors question. But you know, ultimately, some number of people, when the terms are altered for the worse, or when they don't have something that they probably legally should, instead of changing to, it's a crazy hot day by the way. You know, New York sucks. The weather's, it's like humid. I don't know how it's humid. No one ever says it's humid here, but I feel wet, and I don't like that. Speaking of feeling wet, I choose to live here anyway, even though I might prefer living in a colder place. Why don't I go further north? I bet Boston is slightly nicer this time of year. No, I don't think it is actually. Oh look, Massachusetts number plate. That car could be from Boston. Could be that could have been the thing that makes me say Boston. Am I saying it because it's a northern city and that I presumably like? Or am I saying it because I saw the license plate, you know? Are we truly in charge of how we make our decisions internally, or are we not? Because if we are entirely in control, then you don't need to guarantee anything for anyone. People can negotiate on their own behalfs. And in situations where they have no leverage, again, personally, no matter how desperate I am, 16 cents for one nut kick per hour, I'm not gonna get enough to do anything with that, right? It's gonna take me 6 hours to earn $1 slice of pizza, and I don't know if 6 nut kicks, you know, you get my point? It's, but like in reality, things are a little bit more messy. People do things that don't seem entirely in their own best interests all the time. And again, maybe we could argue, well, they're still following free will, they're just not being rational. If I don't know, what's a thing that I don't want to do, but I do anyway? I'm walking to get cake right now, and you know, I know that one slice of cake is already a big treat, but you know, this cake place is kind of far to get to, so I'm gonna get 2 slices of cake, and I'm gonna tell myself that second slice of cake is me to have in a few days' time, or maybe even tomorrow. I'm gonna tell myself, and then later tonight, after I've eaten my first slice of cake and I'm craving more cake, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna eat that second slice of cake anyway. And yet, that is despite the fact that I'm gonna tell myself a ton of times that I just wanna have 1 slice of cake. But yet, I'm gonna still tell myself I'm ordering the second slice of cake for tomorrow, even though I know very well enough about myself that I have a very high % chance of just eating it today. Why does this happen? Why is this true? Why am I doing things that are entirely against my own interests. And it's because I would argue maybe we have this weird, maybe in the same way that quantum mechanics and gravity are incompatible theories that both make sense when you're talking about what you're talking about. Maybe in the same way, you know, by the way, and if just to kind of mention the opposite side here, I guess, if we did live in a truly determinal world, then why would we need any, you know, why would we have any of these like legacy systems in place? Why would we allow anything bad to exist in a deterministic world? If you can determine with 100% guarantee that 2% of people, if you open I don't know, a cake store, 2% of people are going to gorge themselves on cake to a degree that's going to hurt their life more than the cake helps them, why do you allow cake stores to open? The even more serious example would be like alcohol, right? Some number of people drink alcohol and have a good time or whatever, and some number of people drink alcohol so bad they get addicted and die 30 years early, and some people drink alcohol and get so addicted that when they stop, alcohol is one of the few addictions, along with what is it, amphetamines, I think. Like, they physically addict you so bad you can die from going cold turkey on them. Like, you even if you know you have a problem with alcohol, it can mess you up so bad, and yet we still have stores. Wait, let's see if we can find an alcohol store within view of here. Okay, there's a bagel place, there's a Planet Fitness, there's a Dunkin' Donuts, there's a extra big pizza place. Ooh, our famous extra big 20-inch pizza pies. Who wants a big pizza? I want a big pizza slice. Which actually, a big pizza slice is a dumb concept, but you better believe that's not going to stop me. But yeah, why do we have? We're about to, you know, most of the Western world is heading down a path of legalizing weed. We also have legalized regular cigarettes, and if you can deterministically tell that 1% of people, just no matter what you do, are gonna get addicted to these things and use them, you are effectively enacting a measure that kills people. Why would anyone do that? We are fully, you know, like every fast food, every bad, unhealthy food option, every drug option, every whatever else. These things are actively just murder machines that we legalize. And maybe you could argue we do live in a deterministic world, and the people behind these decisions are like, you know, calling it like a, you know, liberal thing, but liberal like the real use of the term, not the American use of the term. They're calling it like a, you know, like, oh, we're just letting people decide. But really, they're deciding to murder people. You can make that argument pretty greatly, and you could see how if you go down that worldview, you get to a scary place real quickly that I guess I don't want to get to today. But I would kind of argue that I think determinism works really well when you're talking about a large collection of people and when you're talking about things. The larger something gets, the more you can deterministically say something like that. Whereas on the individual level, and on a smaller than individual level, but even on like a small group of friends level, you can't really determine with absolute, you know, precision, really anything about it. I'm gonna go to the right here. You know, actually, should I? Dear cyclist, please slow down. You know, let's go to the left, actually. See, I'm like a pigeon in the wind right now. Okay, I'm actually gonna cross the road because it's white. The world just made this impact on me. I was gonna go that way, but there's a white light, and you know, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna not follow the light? That'd be ludicrous, wouldn't it? But there's a kind of big problem with, you know, I should just cross it, shouldn't I? Can I just cross it? I don't know how this road works. I don't know how most New York roads work, honestly. You just kind of walk across them and you hope you don't die, I think. It's a good system. It works. Most people don't die. And therefore, you know, here's an example. Allowing people to get around in cars, some number of people die every single year to car fatalities. Whether that's being hit by the car, whether that's being in a car that hits something else, or whether that's being in a car that's hit by another car. There is some amount of fatality that you just have to assume is out there. And so the blood is on your hands when you allow these things to exist. But, and I think the example of this that like unsettles me most as someone who is probably very liberal in the, you know, the real sense of the word, not the crazy American sense where you just decide, you know, what have we labeled one of the axes of the political spectrum, something else entirely. Like, imagine if you were just like, you know what, I'm gonna start calling people on the right of America social democrats. I'm just gonna start doing it. And they'd be like, well, that doesn't that's not true because they don't follow the ideology. And you'd be like, well, actually, if you think about it, they are in a society, so they're social. And also, they do get elected because they're politicians, so they're social democrats. Yep, that's the new term for people. Wouldn't you be upset? I guess socialists would be an example. Like, well, they go to so many parties, you know, they're socializing all the time. I don't know how we can not call, I'm trying to pick a Republican figure that looks like they go to parties. How can we not call Paul Ryan a socialist? He goes so much socializing. There we go, I did it. I pulled it out of the bag. You're welcome, internet. My high quality American political commentary, still here, still good to go. Look at that dog, his ears are giant. That is cute. That dog, if he was a person, he'd be a socialist. But like, he'd be good at socializing. He wouldn't believe beliefs that are on the left. No, he'd be a right-wing dog. He'd be espousing the virtues of, you know, I'm not gonna do political stuff. But like, the example that I think about a lot is probably gambling, because I don't really understand I'd say that gambling is the example that's kind of where alcohol was in, I don't know how long ago, but you know, the dry times, 100 years ago, prohibition, you know. Like, if you want to take some of your money, throw it on a roulette wheel, and then get statistically slightly less money back, but have a chance of doubling it, in most places, that's like semi-illegal. I don't understand how they decide. Like in the UK, our laws are very confusing. Just like prostitution, fun fact. If you want to pay someone for the love that they give you, it's like semi-legal in a way that isn't too clear. But you know, you can't have a building for that, and you also can't solicit people. But like, if they choose to pay you afterwards, it's fine. You can look into our laws and lots of things if you want to get confused. It's a great thing about the UK. It's a confusing country, and that's why people love it so much. Yeah, so gambling is this funny thing. If you want to do that, you have to go to certain territories around the world right now. And so there's like an interesting argument on one level of like, well, if these people are just leaving our borders, you know, whether that be national or state borders, right, then we might as well just let them do it here, where we can make the tax revenue. I don't know what taxes there are on casinos. I'm assuming it's like building tax and like, I guess, sales tax when you buy a bunch of alcohol or, you know, kebabs because you're drunk and gambling. You know, I guess you don't get kebabs when you gamble in America. I've never seen someone get a kebab in London after gambling either, actually. You know, these are the questions. Why is a kebab and a you know, like a little kebab in one hand, a little Red Bull in the other? Should be a more common thing. But the point I'm saying here, very badly, I'd like to reiterate, is there's an interesting thing in it, in that, like, yeah, you can make the argument that, like, well, that you can do it anyway, so might as well make it here. But there's also an interesting thing that, like, when you open a new casino, it doesn't just attract people who would have otherwise gone somewhere else to do it. You attract some number of people within your own territory, borders, state, government, country, whatever the heck. Right, that just be a fact, whether you want it to be a fact or whether you don't want it to be a fact. And so the thing that I want to dive down to here, that dog is wearing a hat. Oh my god. That is adorable. Oh, I cannot get over that. He looks so happy in his hat. The thing I'm trying to get to here is that you are therefore, you know, some number of people will do it just because you put it there, and some number of those people, I feel like with most vices, if you're pro it, you'll talk about the positive side. You'll talk about all the people that just, you know, have a good weekend that they otherwise wouldn't have had, the positive they had. But also, some percent, you know, you can look up and find this percent for yourself if you want, will become problem gamblers and will ruin their life. I'd say I go to a casino maybe once a year. It was a lot more when I went to Vegas. See, oh, this is exactly the same point. You know, it's like a once a year activity for me, except when I live a 10-minute walk away from them, in which case it becomes a whenever I'm going past and I guess kind of want to activity. So I've spoken to a lot of gamblers, or rather a lot of gamblers speak to me. I would never speak to a stranger in any social setting, but I guess I find it interesting, the type of stranger that talks to me, because a casino in Brighton once. I was on some horse stag party. Don't ask questions about any of those words if you don't understand them. But I was at a casino, and there was this guy next to me at the table. There was like he was betting like an insane human being. If I'm being honest with you, like there are 36 numbers on a roulette table, plus a 0 or 2 zeros if you're American, or 3 zeros if you're a crazy American who doesn't understand odds. So there's 37 to 39 numbers on the table, and if you bet one of those numbers and you get it back and you're correct about the number, you get 36 times what you put on. And so the smart thing to do is to bet a few numbers, and then sometimes you make a ton of money and sometimes you make nothing. But these people are like so addicted to the high of winning that they'll be betting on like 30 numbers at the same time. And so when they win, they don't even really notice it, because if you bet, let's just say a $1 bet 30 times, you're betting $30, and if that happens to come off, you'll get $36 back. Like it's not, you're winning $6 5 in every 6 times. Like it's a mathematically bad gamble to make. But again, they're not addicted to they don't care about the maths or the money. They're so far beyond that. They had a good feeling, and they're chasing that same high over and over and over to the point of oblivion. And the guy's like, oh yeah, I'm not having such a bad night tonight. I've only lost three grand. You know, I had a really bad night last week. I lost 12, but I won 5,000 a couple of days ago. So you know, it's looking up. The streak's going. And like I've seen versions of that so frequently, of like you know, regulars at the casino. They're like, I'm like, oh man, this person, their life prospects, you know, even once they get out of this, even if that guy quit right then, you know, 12,000 down, 5,000 up, 3.5 down, he's you know, he's 10,500 pounds worse off than he was a week ago. And let's be honest, he's not resolving it right that moment. He could still be problem gambling every last little bit of money he gets to this day. You know, he's just under the belief that if I double my money here, and then I do this and I do this, I'll be back to where I was, and then I can quit. Which is, I guess, the big problem there. And so yeah, I've you know, you don't have to go to a, you know, place to know that like the same thing happens to people in drug situations, right? Like you know, big cities in America seem to particularly be having a homeless problem. Interesting enough, not near here in New York. I'm shocked that it wasn't here in New York, but like the first homeless person I've seen in like a month was like as in not in a tent on a street. I wonder why that is. The first one I saw in months was yesterday, and they were like shaking. The guy next to them had some form of suspicious cigarette, and not cigarette, I don't know how to describe it. It was like a pipe isn't the word, but like pipe-like object, you know? You know what I'm saying? Hope you get what I'm saying. Like, you know, like the metal ones though, it's not like a pipe, because I picture a pipe being like this glass thing. Maybe I'm outdated. Maybe I need to update my views on how drugs actually are. But anyway, my point here is like, yeah, I saw that situation, and I was like, oh, yeah. It's really interesting, because you don't very often see pretty homeless women, right? Or especially, you don't see homeless women at all. It's a very male-dominated field. You know, I'm just saying, we need to up the equality here. We need to break the glass ceiling on this element of our society. But I think more seriously, that it's this like tragic thing, and everyone looks at it and they want to help, right? Like how could you not? And it's also, you know, and like a lot of the times, it's tragic. A lot of it is mental health based in America. But there's also, I guess, tangential things from that, alongside like you know, drugs in particular. And so something really interesting to me is that like, if you actually could have anti-drug laws that were so amazingly strong that they really did get rid of all of interesting topic, visual combination right there. But if you really can have laws that are so strong that they were so incredibly good that literally no drugs could exist in your territory. Some Asian countries achieve something like this by having the death penalty for drug smugglers. Even then, they don't get to 0, but like, you know, if you really could have this, then you would be saving these people from themselves and a lifetime of misery that they otherwise inflict on themselves, right? And I think about this a ton as an interesting thing. Like, actually, yeah, if the easiest way to, you know, like one of the problems we have is like do you deal with the symptoms or do you deal with the disease of something, right? Like, do you fix what causes people to become problem gamblers, or do you just resolve the issues after the fact, you know? There's no real easy answer, because they're both going to be very hard, and one of them's a lot easier to say you're going to do than the other, you know? But all of these things come down to, if we understand that some number of people do something, how do we still let those things exist? And the answer is, you gotta believe in people. A key part of the Western world we live in, and that you live in, whether you know it or whether you like it or not. I was gonna say whether you know it or not, but you should be probably pretty aware of whether you live in the world or not. Did you hear that noise? Scary stuff. Oh, coffee meets juice. Mimosa orange coffee. I want to try that, even though I hate coffee. I mean, it can't be that bad, right? It can't be terrible. Yeah, you know. Also, there's cheese foam fruit tea. Green tea, mango, cheese foam. You know, what made me look at this menu? Was it the colourful cake? Was it the... You know, I should just get a lemonade. Oh, you know, no, I'm gonna get the orange coffee combination. Coffee meets juice. Nice. Oh, is it a Tuesday? Are they closed? Oh, it's Wednesday. I can go in. We're all good. Hi, can I get a mimosa? Why does it even ask? That's my big question. Look how nice this place is. Bum, 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 bum. Reserved bedposts. I guess I can sit here then. I guess I shall sit here. But yeah, there's an interesting thing in how we view free will, I think. And I think we almost have to, collectively, for all of our things to make sense, you know, for this coffee juice combination to make sense, for everything in the world to add up and to be logical, you kind of need to... Thank you. I'm going to take a picture of this. But I think for our very fabric of society to make sense, you need to understand that we trust people to make a certain degree of their own decisions. And we trust it's, well, the bottom just tastes like orange juice. It doesn't even taste like coffee. Shall I mix it and ruin it, or just keep going with the orange juice till I hit coffee? I'm not sure. But, oh, it smells like coffee, but it tastes like orange juice. I'm so confused. I don't know what I'm meant to take from this, but it's not anything positive right now. This is so weird. This is so incredibly weird. I like it though. It's like, maybe it's just really good orange juice. It's like bitter. It's more bitter than orange juice should be. But also it's got like a certain flavor to it that you just don't get in orange juice. You know, it's good. Anyway, so you kind of need to assume and let people do what they're gonna do. And that's why, there's some conflict, because I think people aren't, the words I like to use for this are, it's a Western concept, for whatever reason. We just, if you live in a country that speaks English or is aligned very closely with one that is, you probably have a very strong degree in your society of personal responsibility. And that is, even though we know that some number of people are gonna make mistakes, don't. We're putting an extra degree of emphasis on you to be in charge of some large degree of that mistake, under the hope that that causes fewer people to want to make mistakes. And when you say it that way, it's super cruel, because it will, again, when you put people in charge of their own consequences, you do discourage a certain degree of oh, more cute dogs. When you put people in charge of their own consequences, oh, it's getting really coffee-y now. But I don't hate it, even though I hate coffee. You know, what causes me, someone who hates coffee, what causes me to go out and buy a half coffee drink? That's a question for the comments. But yeah, there's an interesting thing that putting people in charge of their own consequences does lower the number of people, but it also makes it more severe for the number that do. If you can lower the number of people that die from all these terrible things, there's actually more examples. Like, I don't know, we can, I hear it's Pride Month, right? Happy Pride. I hope you're proud of whatever you are. Unless you're not proud, which is I hope you're proud of not being proud. And if you're not proud of being proud, then you'd think the point of the month. Disappointed in you. But we do put all of these things onto you. If you want to do that, sure. There's going to be a huge consequence if you mess it up, and that does reduce the number of people. You know, that helps people make more logical decisions some way. But it also feels wrong. Like I remember I was in school, and something that annoyed me is how if I didn't do I just had a moral objection to homework. Obviously, I say it was a moral objection to homework. Realistically, I was probably 12 and just didn't want to, didn't think about it. Like, it didn't seem like a worthwhile use of my time. Meanwhile, meanwhile, I'm playing Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg with time I could have been spending playing homework, or, you know, Sonic Heroes all the way through and all the campaigns. Why did I need to? What was the point of playing what was effectively the same game 4 times? I don't know, but I did it anyway, and I had a moral objection to homework, and instead did that in my time. Which, funnily enough, for the future I chose, you know, given that I work in the video game sphere, funnily enough, that actually probably was a good decision for my own life. But in spite of the fact that I made my own decision, school, like, I had punishments, because, you know, when you don't do homework, you get punished. And for most of school, I don't know, I felt like it was mostly minor. It was just like getting told off, and like, I don't know why getting told off hurts, but it really does, right? Especially when you're young. It shouldn't do, it's just someone saying words to you. Oh no, are you using the mean words at me? Ooh, better stop using those. But it really does get you, right? For reasons unknown. And so, something I always thought was annoying as someone who had a moral opposition to the very nature of homework was, wow, I can't believe that me not doing it gets me some detention, which by the way costs you effort as a teacher. Like, I'm not going to do it regardless of the punishment. I once had an all-day detention, which is the dumbest thing, by the way. They put me in a room. I've told the story before, so I'll just fast forward that, like, I had a bunch of 90-minute detentions that I didn't go to, and so they figured they just stack all the 90-minute detentions into one school day. So I was there from when school started to 2 hours after the school ended, and I was just in a room, and they didn't let me read, if I recalled correctly. Like, they let me sleep for like an hour at one point, but it was just like a room. It was I don't know how to describe it. I had to listen to chaps all day. It was terrible. But you know, these punishments for not doing something I wasn't going to do anyway, they always seem dumb, because like, I've already not done the thing. Right now, punishing me, you know, punishing me for something I haven't done in the past is dumb, because you're just, right, if we use now as our time frame basis and look forwards, I'm just getting punished for no reason if we ignore what's happened in the past. And ultimately, I think we do that a lot as a society, because you do need like reset points in your life. We have it in the financial system with bankruptcy. You can reset all your finances right back to zero. All those debts, wipe them away. You can do that once every 7 years in the UK. In America, bankruptcy laws are even more favorable. Well, you can even keep some of the assets that you have, if I'm not mistaken. It's pretty swell. It's pretty cool. We have that in the you know, like the kind of moral religious sense. You know, you get baptized, they drown you a little bit, they dunk your head in some water, and then you're all better. All those moral faults you did, those people you killed, those drugs you deal to children, those Minecraft videos you made where you spoke about snapshot changes, but you accidentally forgot to enable the data pack that had the changes that you were talking about. All those crimes get atoned for and wiped away. And we kind of need these because feeling like you're underwater is a big problem that keeps us away, and that's the kind of antithesis. Oh, look at this, by the way. Woof. Please clean up after your plap. That's very cute. Something I've seen more than anywhere else in the world is curb your dog signs, and I had to look that up because I have no idea what that means. But apparently people don't like having street furniture that dogs poop on. How crazy of them. Anyway, so I'm actually liking this drink, by the way. I wonder if it has any caffeine in. It was brewed with me in mind. That's so nice of them to consider me when they make me a coffee. I bet other places don't do that. Yeah, you hear this, Starbucks? Direct attack on you. But there's a really interesting thing in all of this. That is like we need reset points, and life as a whole, you know, what you do to yourself, your health, your mental health, which I'll include like addiction as a mental health issue, because I personally believe it's in that category rather than a criminal issue. Even like you can't get midway through a jail sentence and be like, actually, I want to just reset this. Can we go again from scratch? We don't have reset points from these things, and as best I can see, there's not many easy ways to create one. There aren't many easy ways which you can allow people to reset their personal development, and it causes us some problems because, again, personal responsibility, which is a concept that I do think is a bedrock feature in our I say bedrock feature because it's buggy, and I mean bedrock like the bottom layer of our very society, and I think it is important. I think it's you know, like you can't really work around it. It's so built into our systems. People hate it and they'll rebel against that. Like I think Corona is the craziest example where it's like, yeah, it's your responsibility to get tested if you think you have a thing. If you don't do that, well, technically we can't stop you and you can ruin a lot of people's lives. Please don't. You know, we kind of put that onto you. And some number of people totally did go to work, even though they were super infected, and did infect 3 other people who infected 3 other people, and so on and so forth. And, you know, is that a failure of the system, or is that a failure of the individual? Some could argue letting individuals fail is a failure of the system. I don't know if I like those arguments, but it's definitely an argument you can make. And there's more dogs. I love how many dogs there are. You know what, one of the slogans I heard from my chat is that pets are the new kids, and I totally agree. And I'm very happy for it, because I can't look at anyone's child and be happy, but you can look at a happy dog and be like, yeah, this is good for me. That dog in the hat earlier, I mean, we're living in the ideal society right now. Ideal for me, probably not ideal for the world. Again, birth rates, you know, let's not talk about the decline of birth rates in the West. It could be a whole video by itself, right? But my point here is you kind of need reset points for these things to work, because if you grow up, I know one of the dumb things, I feel like I only have very minor effects of that. Growing up poor is, there's so many things that people just understand because they're, you know, their haughty-taughty parents took them at some point to, you know, understand how this type of food is, or this type of, you know, what you're meant to do in these situations. There's lots of these weird social rules that I don't care about learning, but everyone else has ingrained into them. And it's like, oh, yeah, I stick out a little bit for some of those reasons. There's the financial end too, right? Like, I started my life, let's say that, you know, your life where you're in control versus your parents starts at like 17, 18. All of my friends, they all learned to drive because their parents paid for lessons that they did after school, you know, in this time that's free anyway. I had both no access to lessons and no way to drive. When I wanted to get a house, because I understand that's like a way to build, you know, it's crazy. I've got so many, like, the only friends I know that have bought houses have just had gifts, you know, deposits gifted to them by family. My friend, I like him. He's a really good guy. He's Christian. He's married a foreign girl, a Brazilian, if you're curious, and they're living a very happy life. You know, I can talk about him here. He's not going to see this video. They met on a Christian dating site, and I just love that. And so she moved, and she's living with him. And, you know, because they needed a house if they're going to live together. His parents, of course, very religious, went through the whole head dunked under some water thing. They just like, yeah, here's £30,000, and we'll also co-sign the, you know, the mortgage for you. That's just an objective advantage, right? What if you, dear viewer, if you want to marry a Brazilian and live in a house in a quaint suburb, oh, you're going to need to get £30,000. Oh, you don't have £30,000 lying around? Well, isn't that a problem? And obviously financial is the one that speaks truest to me, because, you know, I feel like the start of my adult life I had £40 lying around in a bank account that I used to buy a capture card over. But like, I feel like that's where I started, so that's the one that hits me. But like, what if your parents beat you? What if you have genuine issues with understanding how to be close to someone because, you know, your people in your life have taught you that being close is a giant scam. They've taught you that there is, you know, like every time you've trusted someone in your childhood, it's gone badly, and you need to unlearn all of that. So while people are out there like vaguely getting along, you're there like distrustful of the entire world. How are you gonna get over that? What if, I don't know, here's some dumb ones. You know, what if you, you know, everyone I know has gone through almost everyone I know has some vastly different aspect of themselves that you can't put down to a person. And I think this is like the fundamental issue, is that the way you describe these away is you say it's the parent's responsibility to make sure that a child is a functioning member of society when they're 18. When they become their own person, they're a functioning member of society. But like, there's this Islamic terrorist who recently said, he recently came out and he was like, well, the reason I'm like this is because my parents radicalized me. And it's like, yeah, if your parents do teach you that the West is evil and only Islam can solve it and whatever else, you know, maybe you'll start to believe that. You know, there are at least a dozen years in your life where you believe your parents', you know, authority is superior. And even if you don't think it's the one authority, they've got an authoritative stance as being the ones who raise you. And if they tell you that, like, yeah, whole place is evil, you have to like work past that mountain. And so we've all got these mountains we're working past. And in a deterministic world, we just fix them all and level them all. But I think the reality is, I think the political basis of all of it, I think, like, let's put it this way, right? If you take 100 people who grew up in nice conditions, and you took 100 people who grew up in not very nice conditions, and there was a white man walking there. I could have crossed the road, wouldn't have even been a problem. But if you could take 100 people from some terrible backgrounds, some of their parents beat them, some of them have a creepy Uncle Stu, some of them, you know, just grown up poor their whole life, and so when they're, you know, like, they don't understand basic rituals of trust, you know, like, or even just like, let's just go over money or whatever. If you take these, and then, you know, 20 years down the line, you measure them from happiness, for wealth, whatever else you want to measure society by, you know, at what point is society, the adult world, fair? Do you need to get it so that, you know, like, you can't distinguish between the two groups? I think that's not a bad goal, but I also think the fact that, like, a fact I learned is that in the UK is one of the least mobile income speaking societies in the world. It's a very sad thing. I don't like it so much. I like income mobility, up and down. I like the idea that being born rich doesn't guarantee your right to be rich if you don't also add something to the, you know, the table. And I like the idea of growing up poor doesn't mean you're stuck there forever. But I think the fact that 50% of people don't move past their quintile. So take the bottom sixth, the second sixth, the third sixth, the fourth sixth, the fifth sixth, the sixth sixth. If your parents are born in one of those sixths of society by income, 50% chance you stay in that sect by the time you're 40. And so, isn't it interesting? That's interesting. That's the worst, one of the worst in the world. Again, it obviously only takes into account capitalist countries in inglorious social system. No quintiles exist. Quintiles define you. Wait, I guess quintiles already define you. Anyway, my point is isn't it crazy though that 50% of people do move? Isn't that a great sign for a society as a whole? Isn't that an incredible thing? I'm gonna make the argument that yes it is. I'm gonna make the argument that like, that's cool. Even once we have all these issues, humans are so good at adapting that we go beyond there. And I think that's something I think that's something we always forget about in terms of like being grateful for what we have and talking about that before we try to build off it. Almost everyone that's unsatisfied with the world has this, maybe rightfully so, you know, like this problem with forgetting that like, actually, we do kind of live in like the best time that's ever been around, and that we know of that, the best time in history to be alive is, excluding the future, is right here, right now. For almost any issue, you'd argue we're not there in environmentalism, maybe. There's a few places where we're slightly worse than we've been before. Again, like homeless populations. I've seen, as far as people dying from communicable diseases, probably pretty high too. Although actually not as high as you figure. Now we're in 2021. Bold prediction, this is going to be the year with the fewest deaths from communicable diseases. I guess in the West, if you live outside the West. Sorry about your lack of vaccines, I guess. That's not you don't get to have that success. But in terms of if you live in these countries that we're talking about here, this is going to be the lowest year. If you have a grandparent that survived last year, they're going to be much more likely to survive now, because when you kill off so many, you remove the pool of which you can kill. There's I think it's called the harvesting effect. It's super brutal to talk about, and that's why we're going to do it in a third channel video. But like, there's an interesting thing about lives. That like, some number of people are like on the edge of death in life, and pretty much anything will kill them. And some number of people are very far away from the edge, and it takes something really serious to kill them. Think about how, like, I don't know, you can survive a helicopter crash and get out of here alive, but if someone gets the flu, that can be the end of them, right? It's insane, and on a deterministic level, you can look at those things and you can say, yeah, that does be crazy actually. That is definitionally pretty wild. But also, by the way, look at this. You can look down the middle of the road and it just goes on infinitely. I don't think you can see it very well because you're on my chest. I'm sorry. If I put you on my head, I'd look even weirder. Walking around in public, trying to buy mimosas that are coffee instead of champagne. But, oh, it's just so bad. Like, every other mouthful is amazing and bad. Like, it just alternates, even though they're like perfectly mixed now. Don't understand this in the slightest. But yeah, I just think a key thing we forget about in the debate of is everything determined or not is like, obviously both. We're just trying to work out where one ends and the other begins. On a society-wide level, things are pretty clearly determined. Like the fact that you can, with very little, like without knowing much more about a country, say that if you, I don't know, cut business red tape, or you can say that if you lower corporation tax 1%, you'll grow the number of corporations that'll be there. You know, there's no like question about like, oh, well, there might be some places that want to pay more. It's like, no, what happens is that happens. You can say pretty reliably, with not many doubts. Yeah, this is getting really coffee. You know, this is how I'm going to start drinking coffee from now on. Like, just put a little shot of coffee on top of some orange juice, some really sweet orange juice, and then you can drink it, and it's not even terrible. Like the last time I drank coffee in one of these. This should be a series. Just grab a coffee, but like not actually a coffee, because who wants coffee, and then go for a walk. Good way to live life. You know, the more walks you take, the less likely you are to die. You want to die in a helicopter crash rather than from some communicable disease? You better believe the way forward is walks. Sure is tasty. But anyway, I think that I think a problem we have is kind of this just like, I don't know, all or nothing and everything mentality. Like, there are people who are genuinely super unhappy. They're like, yeah, I mean, society is progressing in the right direction, but are we going fast enough? And they're genuinely, their whole lives are consumed by this sadness about it. Like, every waking moment is, you know, posting things about how, you know, this could be better for them, that. You know, every election is the do or die. I literally, you will kill myself if this doesn't go the way that it might go. Oh, there's a cool Shake Shack. Should we get Shake Shack as well? I mean, who's stopping me? The fact that the Shake Shack in London always stops me. I feel like it's closer to my house in London than this is to. It's interesting stuff. Anyway, I've never seen this square, by the way. It's Madison Square, apparently. That's fun. Look at these trees. You want to go see some big trees with no leaves? I bet you don't. Is this like deliberate? Is this an art piece? Let's read about it. Maya Lin Ghost Forest. Oh, it's an art piece. Let's read about it anyway, though. You know, let's understand what's happening here. You see, it's I couldn't read enough. There was so much text there. See, that's a fun deterministic thing, right? You can be sure if you post too much text about something, let's say 12 paragraphs in size 10 font, you can guarantee that people are going to skim it or ignore it. Whereas if you put a big red warning label, warning, subscribe to channel, or sorry, warning, unsubscribe from channel, become like the 76% or whatever. Oh, this is cute. Should I find the exact statistics on this channel? I want to do that right now. You know what? See, this is interpretive art. It doesn't need to... The art resists interpretation by interpreting itself. In the meantime, you can read about this if you want. Oh, it's in Spanish too. Exciting. Okay, so on this channel right here, subscribers are at audience. Oh, wow. 56.1% of you aren't subscribed. We need to up these numbers, rookies. You need to get unsubscribing right now. Unless you really like this channel, then I'll allow you to stay subscribed. But like, if you're even questioning it, maybe you should unsubscribe. This is a good way to run a channel. Tell people to leave constantly. I am good at YouTube, so I keep telling myself, at least. Anyway, oh, look at that building with a gold spire at the top. Why is that? That looks so like 16th century. I guess that's probably what they're going for. But you know, here's the thing, right? So here's a thing that I can recycle some plastic, or I can put it in landfill. I can put some of this back on a barge somewhere to be sent to, you know, like maybe turn into more plastic, or I can make the world a worse place. I literally have the choice, and society says that I should do this, but I can do that if I want to. Isn't that insane? Isn't that nutty that we just allow people to do that? Like that was okay. There's no downside to that, right? So sadly enough, the video actually cut out here. I didn't notice for another 20 minutes, so all of that footage is lost to history, and instead you can just enjoy this terrible ending. If you didn't like this video enough, make sure to unsubscribe, and I'll see you all next time.